first thing I want you to look at is if we have a base and a power, and then we have the same base with a different power. Do you guys remember what to do with the exponents here?
You add them.
You add them. And so here we are we keep the base and we add our powers. So do you guys remember writing this? I don't know, it was probably around Thanksgiving. Or no, it was after. We did indicator 16 after Christmas break. So it was right in January. So we keep our base and we add our powers. So whenever you are adding fractions, what do you have to make sure? What happens with the denominators when you add fractions?
Make it 2a though.
You have to have common denominators.
Wouldn't it make it 2a?
It would not make it 2a. It would not make it 2a. But whenever you are adding your powers, please make sure if it is a fraction that they have a common denominator. We have to have a common denominator. Can you guys still see that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's do some problems like this. All right, so we have x to the 1/3 power times x to the 4/3 power. You're gonna say we would add, correct?
Yeah.
Do we have common denominators?
Yeah.
All right, so what is 1/3 plus 4/3?
5/3.
5/3. We never ever write exponents as a mixed number. Don't ever change that to 1 2/3. Leave it as 5/3. So we keep our base and we add our powers. All right. We have x to the 1/4 power, y to the 5/6, and we're going to multiply that to x to the 1/2 and y to the 2/3 power. All right, so the first thing can we put together x's and y's?
No.
No, but can we multiply a base of x to another base of x?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So our two x's, we are going to take 1/4 plus 1/2, which maybe you guys can add that without getting common denominators. What is 1/4 plus 1/2?
3/4.
That is 3/4, but if you guys need to change 1/2 to 2/4 and then add it, and we get x to the 3/4 power. That's the first part. Now for y's, we have 5/6 and we have 2/3. Are those common denominators?
No.
One has a denominator of 6, one has a denominator of 3. What would the common denominator be there?
6.
6. So this one we would have y to the 5/6. Now, what would 2/3 be? 2/3 would be how many sixths?
4.
4/6. So to get common denominators, we would add 5/6 plus 4/6, which what is 5/6 plus 4/6? 9/6, and can that be reduced? What is 9/6 reduced to? 3/2. So we are simply adding our fractions, getting common denominators if we need it. All right, what do you guys think so far? You know, say getting common denominators will be the most challenging thing, but I promise the fractions that Mrs. Hyatt and I have chosen when we made these assignments, I feel like it's been ancient times. It's been a long time since we wrote this book, which is not a book. We just make our own stuff.
Why do you call it indicators? Like, why not lesson or something?
That was actually something that was when Mrs. Couch was still teaching. She started that. Indicators are just like topics.
Oh.
All right, now I do have one more like this. All right, I'm going to put coefficients with this. Now, do you remember what we're supposed to do with coefficients?
Multiply?
We multiply the coefficients and then we add the powers. So we multiply coefficients and then we add the power.
So it'd be 8 to the power.
All right, so 2 times 4 is 8. Now for A, we are adding 3/7 plus 4/7.
Would that just make it to the power of 1?
Well, yeah, 3/7 plus 4/7 is 7/7, which is 1. Do we really have to put a 1 there?
No.
If you put it there, am I going to mark it wrong? No. 8A to the first, or just 8A. So if you do have coefficients, I just wanted to remind you that you still can multiply those. All right, so far so good? All right, so whenever we are multiplying, we add the powers. So let's go back to, what if we're dividing? What do we do to the powers? We subtract. We keep the base, and we subtract our powers. All right, so if we look at our exponents, do we have common denominators?
Yeah.
All right, so in order to do this, we are going to always subtract top minus bottom. So 9/5 minus 2/5, what does that give me? 7/5. Can't be reduced, that's all we can do there. Make that a 2. Is that a little easier to see? All right, so what are we supposed to do with our coefficients? Divide. What is 36 divided by 12? 3, and I'm going to just put 3 over 1. All right, now let's look at the A's. All right, we have a whole number 2, which is 2 over 1, right? Do we have common denominators with our a's? All right, what is the common denominator of 1 and 2? All right, so instead of writing 2 over 1, what would be my common denominator to make this a 2? 4 over 2. Now, I'm just rewriting it with common denominators. You don't have to do this, but it's just something I like to show. Now, do our b's have common denominators? Okay. All right, so we've divided our coefficients. Now we just need to subtract our powers. What is 4 over 2 minus 3 over 2? 1/2. So we have 3a to the 1/2. Now for your b's, you take top minus bottom, 1/3 minus 2/3. What does that give us? Negative 1/3. Do you guys remember if we have a negative power, where do we write our answer? In the numerator or denominator? If we have a negative power, it's going to go in the denominator and it turns into a positive. So when we move it to the denominator, it becomes a positive. Because negative 1/3, to make it a positive, we would move it to the denominator and change the sign. All right, so when we multiply, we add. When we're dividing, we subtract. Now, we do have one more type to go through, and that's not going to take us very long, and then you guys will get all of the time that you need to work. I'm going to say, look, I got some stuff I got to get them through. Okay. Can you come back in 5? Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you see something like this, do you remember what to do with the powers? We keep the base, but what do we do to the powers there? We multiply. All right, now when you multiply fractions, you can multiply straight across. We do not have to have common denominators here. So we're taking 2/3 times 1/5. So multiply the numerators. What's 2 times 1? What's 3 times 5? Can you reduce that? That's it. Now say the multiplying ones are much easier. And so we can also multiply whole numbers to fractions. But how can we make that exponent of 2 a fraction? Might be helpful. 2 over 1. So we are going to multiply both fractions times 2. So for A, we take 1/2 times 2 over 1, which what is 1/2 times 2? Ooh.
1.
Half of 2 is just 1. Now for B, we take 4/3 times 2 over 1. What is 4/3 times 2 over 1? Multiply across. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. And we have 8/3. So if you have 2 bases, multiply each power by the exponent on the outside. We can multiply whole numbers to fractions. Now, I do have one more because we didn't do one with the coefficient. This will be our last one for the day. All right, is 16 in the parentheses?
Yeah.
All right, so if we put everything, whatever is in the parentheses gets taken to the 1/2 power, correct? Even the coefficient? Yes. Everything, even the coefficients, get taken to the power. So we are going to evaluate 16 to the 1/2 power. Now for your A's, I'm going to just make 4/1 a fraction times 1/2, and then B to the 8/1 times
Would that be
1/2.
16 times 8, or how would that work?
All right. So we talked about this yesterday. We talked about evaluating 16 to the 1/2 power yesterday. So let's just, off to the side, what's the power, 1 or 2?
2, 1.
The 1 is the power and the root is 2,
Yeah.
which that means square root, right?
Yep, it's just the same.
1/2 means square root, so what's the square root of 16?
And
4. All right, so 1/2 means square root. So then for your A's, we just multiply what is 1/2 of 4. 2, because that would be 4/2, which becomes 2. Now what's 8/2? 4. You say, do you guys have any questions on that one? Do you guys want to see another one like that? See, I'm seeing lots of no's. But it makes me nervous that you're quiet. All right, I am going to let you guys work. And then what we'll do tomorrow is maybe the first 10 minutes of class, if you guys have questions about the assignment and we want to work out a couple of them, we can. And then I will let you guys work on the second assignment tomorrow. And then we are quizzing on Thursday. So this is our last official day of notes. But if we need to do more examples tomorrow, if you guys have questions, we can definitely do that.